I wouldn't call myself a horror fan overly. Like, if you were to give me a choice of 5 different movies, I probably wouldn't pick the horror one. But I have written an awful lot of horror material. For example, I've written a Cthulhu scenario at WarpCon every year for the last 30, I think.
Wow. Welcome to Tabletop Talk, the podcast where I delve into the minds of tabletop gaming creatives. Join me as I uncover their creative process and inspirations. You are in the right place if you enjoy listening to thoughtful interviews with creative people.
This is Keith Amon. I'm teaching your dungeon master how to build a base and kill your dudes. And you're listening to Tabletop Talk.
Howdy friends, Craig here. My guest today is Gareth Ryder-Hanrahan. He is a writer, a game designer, originally qualified as a computer programmer. He took a 3-month break to see how this quote-unquote writing thing would go. More than 15 years later, he's still on that break. Gareth has published more role-playing games and supplements than he can even recall, including the award-winning The Laundry RPG, Adventures in Middle-earth, and the Dracula Dossier. He describes writing as the process of transforming tea and guilt into words. Gareth lives in Cork, Ireland, with more children and fish than he ever anticipated. Gareth, welcome to the third floor.
Thank you very much.
So I joke about having a hit list, Gareth, of when I started this podcast maybe like 2.5 years ago. The origin of the podcast is that I took about a 20-year break from role-playing games. So when I left, there was like GURPS and Champions and, D&D 3rd edition, I think. And then I come back and The Forge had happened, Gumshoe had happened, Blades in the Dark was the thing. And I came back and I'm like, what the hell happened here? And so the podcast was me basically learning about these new games, and it turned into me learning about the people that make the games and do, writing and stuff like that for it. And in my triumphant Rumpelstiltskin return, my love of playing horror as a genre and role-playing continued. And good Lord, my friend, your name was all over the place.
Yeah, I have been alarmingly prolific even by normal standards.
Yeah, it's great. And it was like if it was either written by you or Graham, one of the two, everything that I was coming across.
Indeed.
So at some point, Gareth, you knew nothing about this hobby. And then there was the moment when it was first put in front of you. Can you take me back there?
I feel like I've told the story a billion times, but
I know, it's the worst, man. Every podcast has this question. I know.
But this one kind of works because it's like, there's a poetic ending to it. So it was 1990 or so. I'd been introduced to Lord of the Rings by my mother, who was a big Tolkien fan, loved the book. The local library was doing this Tolkien week. I go in and there's a bunch of people sitting on a table with map of the Prancing Pony, little miniatures, and there were character sheets from them. I later learned were character sheets. And I don't know what this was, and there was a crowd of kids gathered around them. And they said, "Well, you know the player, you at the back." And I was dragged forward and handed a sheet that began, "You are an elf who has passed through Moria." And I went, I have no idea what this is, but it's the best thing ever. And we played the game, and I went, okay, well, I want to do this lots and lots. But this was, as I said, 1990, it was pre-internet.
Right.
It should have been 89, in fact. So I had no idea what I just played. So I spent the next 9 months or so trying to find the game, and I ended up buying this insanely complicated Fellowship of the Ring board game, which is this hex map version of Middle Earth with section 15.2.7, activating the Watcher in the Water. I was there going, this is not like the thing we played.
Yeah.
And then finally found, D&D and MERP and Fighting Fantasy and many other things, and continued from there.
So as an adult now, looking back at the kid that got called from the back row in the library, and that you then became on a quest of your own to find what the hell did I just experience, do you have a sense of why it clicked so well for you that led to the journey that you've gone on?
I think partly it was just the idea of being inside the story, being able to make your own decisions, being able to to do the sensible things or the clever things or the heroic things or even the cowardly things. Just being able to take different decisions. It's a wonderful, wonderful art form and experience. And also, I think it was a chance, but after the game, some of the older gamers started telling war stories about their campaigns.
Yeah.
And I was my character was just, had his legs broken because they were playing Merp, which is his role master. And he had his legs broken for 6 months of game time. All he could do was sit in a tower making recipes. I was there going, that sounds awesome.
That's so true.
Yeah, it's also a very stupid hobby. It's sort of very things happen in role playing that won't happen in any other medium because there's an editorial thing, and you're going, no, we can't do that. That's silly. I guess you also in improv comedy and so forth, but it's I don't know. It just really, really clicked.
It just clicked. So if we look at the signpost, so let's pretend that I take my daughter to the Ryder-Hanrahan Museum, right? And the first exhibit is this story that we just told, and you being exposed to MERP and games like that. What was the next big signpost, do you think? What do you think was the next significant piece in your journey?
So I played D&D and Warhammer and so forth for a while and got into many other nerdy things. And then about 4 years later, I went to WarpCon, which is the local games convention. And I had no idea what to expect. All I played was D&D and D&D-like things.
Right.
And I sat down playing Call of Cthulhu.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, we're all priests. And there's an invisible monster. And it's it's a mystery. And it's it's not just killing stuff. This is awesome. This is the best thing ever. So, I was very enthusiastic I was for a while. And that led to basically playing Cthulhu for a few years. And then when I went to college, I got involved still involved in the society that runs WarpCon. And that because of how the Irish convention scene worked back then, basically, it was all the games were sort of tournament style. So basically, one person would write the D&D scenario or the Cthulhu scenario or the Permanent scenario. And then back in its heyday, we had 20 tables of certain games running. So basically everyone played the same scenario and they have the wonderful bit afterwards so everyone gets to look and have their war stories and go, did you guys meet the wizard in the tower? There was a tower, there was a wizard. We spent the entire adventure in the toilets of the inn. We couldn't open the door. But that was fantastic writing practice for writing because you learned to write basically not quite publishable grade scenarios, but stuff that notes that other people could turn into a game. So Exhibit 3 then is me sending a few scenarios out to various publishers, basically going, I've written this for your game. Do you want it for con demos? And Greg Benage at Fantasy Flight Games, which were publishing good clients at that point, went, yes. Also, do you want to write for us? And I went, what? Okay.
How old were you?
This would be just after graduating college, so it would have been 21, 22, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, about that, certainly early 20s. And I went, okay. And I went, okay, well, I will do the sensible thing of getting a real job and writing on the side. And that lasted a few months because I love the way my bio says I took a break from programming. No. The company downsized everyone around me and then downsized me. So a break was given unto me.
you were ushered into another phase.
Exactly. Yes. Have this entirely voluntary break.
Oh, that's funny.
I had so money saved, so I'd see how long this goes, and as it kept going ever since. And then I got this was back in the sort of boom days of D20, where there was if you could write competent stuff quickly, which I could do, you could keep getting work, and then that led to a staff job at Mongoose Publishing for a while, and then on from there.
Do you have a sense, again, looking back, Gareth, sounds like, early 20s, you kind of get your first real gig, right, with Fantasy Flight Games. When did you know, like, this is what I'm going to do, right? This isn't something I'm playing around with. This is not something I'm doing for now until I can get another programming job, which may have never been a thought. Yeah. But like, when did you or wasn't there a moment where you said, this is what I'm going to do?
I don't think there was ever a definite moment. Like for the first few years, it was very much just sort of like, survival into the next gig, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then I got a full-time job at Mongoose, which was a fantastic experience in retrospect. Are you familiar with how Mongoose Publishing used to work back in the day?
Mm-mm.
Mongoose, basically, during the D20 period, Mongoose's attitude was, it takes us too long to basically have an idea, go out, find a freelancer, get that freelancer to write the book, bring the book in, edit it, publish it.
Yeah.
What we'll do is we'll have a couple of people on staff as freelancers, and they will write a book every month.
Wow.
And they will be the stuff they produce will be good enough published, so we can just sort of keep going. You do this book, you do this book. So it was on one level an absolute nightmarish grind because you're writing 70,000 words a month every month. At least. But it wasn't that they would say we're going to do a book on these topics with this outline. It was like, Gar, we need 256 pages on dragons by the end of August. Off you go. So it's complete. As long as you were working within that D20 space and that D&D's compatible stuff, there was very much complete freedom.
Right.
Dragons, anything you want. Horror, anything you want. So it was a fantastic way to basically learn the ropes of writing, because you had to get stuff out. You could really sort of explore different topics, and basically wrap it all in game mechanics.
So, quick question, Gar, because we're not going to really get into this aspect of you and your writing, but I think it's super interesting, which is, when did you start to veer off and go, I don't want to write just for games. Like, I've got full stories in my head and I want to write fiction and publish novels. When did that start to emerge for you?
It started when one of the things the Mongoose my headphones just fallen out. Sorry.
These fucking headphones. Did you lose me?
I haven't lost you, but Alan Moore is joining us. No, he's not.
Okay.
Alan Moore. For the listener, if we keep this bit in, as I explained to Craig earlier, there is some odd interaction with my headphones, and if they fall out and I put them back in, it starts up Apple Music and starts playing Alan Moore's spoken word album.
Because it begins with A.
Exactly, yes.
That's funny.
And I've gone through at least one interview with Alan Moore constantly playing in my ear.
Oh my goodness. I would love to listen to that interview. It's like, talk about rolling for sanity, right?
Anyway.
Of all the voices. Publishing and writing novels, yes.
Yes. Mongoose still are publishing the Paranoia role-playing game. And I got introduced with that, and the Paranoia line manager, Alan Barney, started doing a line of Paranoia novels.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, I'll try doing one of those. And Alan, quite heroically, just dragged the Paranoia novel out of me, because I had a lot of trouble getting my head out of the game writing space into the novel writing space.
Yeah.
But after I'd done that, I went, that was an experience. And I started doing a bit of fiction for myself on the side, and wrote a fantasy novel, sent it off to a few publishers, heard nothing back, but then one of the other Mongoose editors had also moved into novel writing. He had an agent. I sent the agent. The agent went, yes, I will take you on. And I'm now on to my 8th novel for Orbit Books. Which has been
So here's the Sophie's choice, which you don't have to
Yeah.
make, right? Which is there's two paths and you can only choose one, which is continuing to write material for games or strictly just, novels and stories. Would you be able to make that choice? And if so, what would it be?
Ooh, I would probably stick with games, to be honest.
Why?
Purely, partly just a purely pragmatic thing is that I know the games industry a lot better than novels. I mean, novels are sort of like gambling. Like, they can do an awful lot better, but it's equally possible that your name will be like, cursed, and the publisher will just go, no. Like, there are lots and lots and lots of people who can and really want to write novels.
Yeah.
There are fewer people who can write games and can do it like reliably and quickly.
Yeah.
It would just be a safer option.
Right.
But unfortunately, don't have to make it. So yay.
And do you think it's strictly? So I'm picking up that it sounds like you're more familiar with one than the other. And is that strictly just because you've done one more than the other, or do you think that you, as a creative, lean towards games more? Is it just that you've done it more?
I don't know. I suspect. I mean, I think I still think in role playing game terms much more easily they do in novel terms.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that is just experience or if it's a particular quirk of how my brain works. Yeah, I don't know, and I suspect it would take years of therapy to work out which.
Oh, that's funny. So guys, the Insider Insight series allows me to sit down with designers, developers, artists, writers, and creators and learn how they approach their work. I tried to understand their process, inspiration, and the methods for crafting their creations. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back from this break, we're going to talk to Gar about writing horror, or are we?
This is the part of many podcasts where someone comes on, interrupts the show, and explains that you should consider paying for the content that you're listening to right now for free. That pitchman explains by giving $1 or more a month, you not only support the show, but you allow the show to grow and improve. Here on the third floor, we refuse to interrupt your episode of Tabletop Talk with such time-wasting pleas. We pledge never to run a spot asking you to go to patreon.com and give $1 or more a month, because supporting content creators keeps the content coming, even if there is a link in the show's description. And there is. We don't ask you to click it and become a patron. We don't waste time rambling about the benefits like early access to episodes, getting episodes without ad breaks like this, or even getting a chance to play in one of Craig's RPG sessions. Anyway, enjoy this episode knowing Tabletop Talk, despite being supported by its patrons, won't engage in such blatant appeals for support.
So I sent a call sheet to all my guests beforehand. It's a very high level outline that says, here's things I want to touch on. If you listen to this podcast, you know that I throw that thing away about halfway through the interview because we figure out something far more interesting to talk about than what I wrote down. But one of the things that I put first here for Gar is I wanted to talk about writing horror, because that has been my exposure. And Gareth, before we started recording goes, I have a bit of an issue with the writing horror segment. And so let's start there. Because you made a very interesting distinction that I want to talk about. It sounds like you may not consider yourself writing horror.
I'm not sure. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a horror fan overly. If you were to give me a choice of 5 different movies, I probably wouldn't pick the horror one. But I have written an awful lot of horror material. For example, I've written a Cthulhu scenario at WarpCon every year for the last 30, I think.
Wow.
And a lot of my big things like Dracula Dossier and Fear Itself and Cthulhu City, and I'm doing the new Trail of Cthulhu. Like I've done an awful lot of games that will be categorized as horror.
Yep.
My novels as well. They're fantasy novels, but a lot of them have horror-y bits. And I was trying when you did the Cold Students, like, do I write horror? And I think my distinction would be that, and also like in terms of media I would choose to consume, it would be more about a cult or supernatural investigation and supernatural mysteries than horror as a sort of emotional experience. Like, is the X-Files horror, for example?
Right.
And like, certainly there are some episodes of the X-Files that are horror, as in like, it's just about like, the spooky monster and the jump scare. But the ones I would be drawn to would be the ones which are all about like, unraveling the backstory, working out the parameters of the mystery, finding the clues. And I think the reason that works so well in role-playing games is because you're not assuming any real prior knowledge or real-world knowledge about the mystery. You can like build up the rules of the puzzle through play. I think that's the distinction I would draw. And I'm not sure if it's a useful one or meaningful one, but it just leapt out at me.
Yeah, but it's super informative, I think, as far as understanding what you think you're writing, right? And what your approach to that. So one of the earliest interviews I did as I started this podcast was with Robin. And I, after I got talking to Robin, I picked up Fear Itself, which was one of the first horror games I picked up when I came back. And my first exposure to you was Fear Itself and Invasive Procedures.
Oh, yes.
And I ran it on the channel, on the AP channel that I do as well. I'll never forget reading it for the first time. It was one of those instances where I read it, I'm like, I have to run this. I have to play this. But then to hear the author tell me that may not be horror is really hard for me.
Well, that one, I will say, that is absolutely horror. That one actually was written, or at least heavily inspired, when I was playing awful. My mother was very ill, and I was playing awful time in hospitals. So that one was very much sort of like, me going, well, I'm going to be sitting around here for a while. I may as well get something from.
It's not.
How can I monetize this vigil?
Okay, let me make some money off my trauma real quick.
Exactly. That's what you do, especially when you're like, your prior experience is a very demanding writing schedule. You go, okay, I cannot waste this time. There must be something here I can use.
God, that is so true.
Invasive Procedures is definitely horror. It's this game where you're in this, your characters are like paralyzed, but you're in this hospital. There are weird experiments going on with you. It is all about evoking that visceral reaction and so forth. But also, it's a one shot.
Yes,
and like you could sustain horror for a one shot, but if you're going to do something longer like a campaign, there needs to be stuff other than I tend to gravitate towards those longer form things when I'm writing.
So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about on the list before this, this distinction became part of the conversation is I was going to talk to you like, what horror do you love? What scares you? Which is, the generic question every podcaster asked you already. So I think my new version of that question, Gar, is, can you think of a media, especially for like a TV show or a movie, that leans more towards, like you mentioned, the X-Files? Is there anything else that you think is more representative of your style?
I'm utterly obsessed with the book House of Leaves. Have you read it?
Oh my God, that book.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of Lovecraft as well is just like, the whole sort of, slow build up to his whole, like, scientific approach stuff. What else would be good? I've been rewatching obsessively A Field in England, which is this fantastic black and white. Have you ever watched it?
No.
Oh, it's this Ben Wheatley movie. It's basically these like 5 characters in a field in England in the English Civil War, and it's all basically this. Like that one to me is again closer to horror, as there's no. It's all surreal instance and there's no real explanation, but there's a feeling they're trying to puzzle out what's happening to them. I guess basically I get bored with jump scares is the main.
Yeah. I consider myself a huge horror fan, but I'm not a jump scare fan.
Yeah. What else? I'm missing. There's some. Oh, I really liked the American remake of The Ring. I remember that going like, that's so good. Dracula though, but I obviously I was like, obliged to love that. But again, that having spent so much time in the bowels of that novel.
Oh my God, I cannot. I'll talk about just exhausting. I'll never forget when then I got to Night's Black Agents, and it's obligatory that I have to buy, the Dossier, which I've never had a chance to run yet. But man, I've read it, and it's just like, holy shit! Like, he loves Dracula. He loves this. I mean, it's unbelievable.
I quite liked Dracula before we started the project.
Yeah,
but like if you're actually that's if we're doing the whole like game designer on the couch approach to this thing, which we seem to be.
Yeah.
One of actually possibly my greatest strength as a freelance writer is the ability to make myself either fall in love or fake being in love.
Interesting.
With whatever I'm asked to do. Like if you're writing, because I do a lot of supplements and ventures for other people's games.
Yep.
And what you need to be able to do is go, okay, even if this is not exactly to my particular taste, other people really like this game. I will work out why they like this game. I will sort of break it down to the emotional triggers, the intellectual puzzles, to the feel of it, and try and replicate that. And I think I've been quite good at being able to sort of like, zone in, okay, this is what makes this particular game good. This is what makes this particular setting distinctive. This is what people get out of this particular style of play.
Yeah.
Because I'm very open in my own, like I will play anything and find something to enjoy in it.
Now I've got tons of questions. That was a terrible thing to bring up because that's fascinating. So let's say I'm interested in that process, Gar. So you were given an assignment, right? Mm-hmm. And we can use Dracula Dossier. I don't care. Can you give me a sense of how do you piece that apart? Is it just you spending time with it and picking it out and figuring the triggers and trying to vicariously read it as a fan or understand it as a fan? Is it talking to others? Now with the internet, we can go and we can read reviews and can you give me a sense of how you fall in love with what you're about to write?
Partly it would just be reading it, imagining what I do with it, then going off and reading forums and like people's posts and just sort of going, okay, what are other people doing with it? What are the common traits of the fandom? If it's a existing property like Dracula, I'll go off and read a couple of books of criticism of that and get a sense of where this where other people have gone with this thing, because with so many role-playing games, they're based on existing properties, so there's a wealth of information out there already. And then it's really sort of trying to empathize with the prospective players, and you're going, okay, what do people who play this game really like from what I've read? How can I give them that experience, and how can I give them something either unexpected or on top of that, or can I deliver a sort of very, very sort of pure, stripped down version of that experience? There's always temptation when doing something do something to do a twist on the thing.
Yep.
But like, I mean, there's a certain joy in just like the dungeon with the kobolds in it,
Right.
Or, I mean, there's so few like Cthulhu scenarios which are really, really just like an investigation into mysterious events without that don't layer on extra stuff. And like the extra can be lovely, but when you come to Cthulhu for the first time, if you're a new player coming to it for the first time, you just want that core experience. And like, the core experience of a good investigative horror mystery, blah, blah, or occult horror, whatever you call it, is like a gaming haiku where you're basically you have like the setup, or maybe it's like sort of stand-up routine or something, like the perfect setup, the perfect development, the perfect punchline. You have like this set of characters, this initial plot hook, these choices the players can make, and then it all comes to a climax. And you don't know, ideally, you don't know how that climax is going to develop because it's based on the actions of the players.
Mm-hmm.
But the scenario is so structured that so it'll still come to some climax. So yeah, they're honestly, what I'm trying to do so much is just recreate those early, like the feel of those early days.
Yeah.
I still remember how I felt playing my first Cthulhu scenario, my first like D&D dungeon, and trying to role players trying to recapture being 12. Okay.
we have not aged since.
No, exactly.
Well, and that ties a little bit into one of the things that I find interesting, which is you're given an assignment, right? You're saying, write something for Trail, right?
Yeah.
How do you find yourself as you're staring at the blank page, or even before the? We got to get you smaller ears, Gar.
I just got these new headphones, and they have like I can change the little knobs on them at some point.
So,
this is very professional.
So, which is really this podcast, right? Shocking. Is it a situation where you say, I come up with the starting point, right? This is an interesting place to start. Is it, I want it to have this feel or this thing, or I know what's happening and I work backwards to figure out how we're going to incorporate the players. Am I making any sense?
You are, yeah. I don't think there's a sort of single formula for it. Like you can sort of start anywhere. You can start with the plot. You can start with the setting. You can start with like one scene you want to build everything around. You can start with a particular setup of players. You can start with like a desire to focus on a particular monster, a particular mechanic. Like I really want the scenario to center around like stealth and hiding and so forth. But then the other elements of it all have to be right. To a degree, like actually one of the great things about role playing games, other than as distinct from novels, is that you have this functional template. Like anything can work as a novel, but a role playing game has to have like X characters in a situation. There needs to be enough stuff there for the GM to build like 3 hours of play from this material. So you have a sort of list of like your checkpoints you have to hit as you're writing, and then it's about basically you take your starting point, you have your checkpoints you hit, and it's a way of basically getting all that as elegantly as possible, and both staying true to the promise of the game. So if it's Trail, you are going to be doing an occult investigation. You're going to be following clues, giving the players the experience they expect to have from the game, but also twisting it in some way so that it's new and exciting and doesn't feel rote. And then you just put some nice words, a couple of numbers.
So let's pretend that somehow I was able to gather 2 or 3 of the books that you wrote early on for Mongoose, and when you were, just pumping stuff out on a monthly basis. And yes, look at that. Oh God, that's great. And then I, pick up second edition Fear Itself or something, or, the Mariah book for Lord of the Rings. I'm sure a lot has changed for you as a writer. What I'm always interested in, what hasn't changed, right? So what is something that you did early that you think you still do now? Is there something that has survived all of the growth you've had as a writer?
I think so. I mean, the horrible thing is I'm not sure if I have grown that much. Still 12.
Right?
No, but no, I think that one thing that is very constant throughout my writing, and this comes from having started doing con scenarios, is that everything has to be used at the table. Like I'm very, very conscious that this material, you can't have readings of backstory if there's no way for the players to learn it. Right. That there's no point in writing about the Duke so and so unless there's a plot hook in Duke so and so's background. Again, it's a functional document. It needs to have utility at the table. I suspect the biggest change would be just a greater appreciation of the prose and artistry of writing, and trying to make it not only useful and entertaining at the table, but also worth reading.
Yeah, no question. So, in a similar vein,
mm-hmm.
how you write now, there's really two of you, right? There's the person who writes the first draft, and then the person that fixes what the first person wrote. What do you find yourself doing when you go back to do the second draft of something, or as you're working on it? Is there something that you constantly have to work on or adjust or fix in draft 2 and in draft 3 as you go through these iterations?
I don't do too many drafts, which...
interesting.
Well, basically, again, because I came up through the Mongo system, where if you didn't hit your word count, you would you would have a job much longer.
Yeah.
It was fairly cutthroat in a lot of ways. So basically, my early drafts tend to be fairly clean.
Yeah.
I think I'm good at sort of visualizing how a book will flow. So my second drafts tend to be just tidying up, cleaning up, amplifying. But I think the one thing that does come up is your subconscious is often smarter than you are.
Yeah.
And when you're doing, you do a throwaway line, it's especially true in novels, but also up to role-playing games. You do a quick sidebar of here are the flora of the Duke's kingdom. Here's some interesting mushrooms, and then as you're going back for a second draft or even later on, hang on, it's really useful that we established the mushrooms because now we're going to build a murder mystery around that particular poisonous mushroom only grows in the Duke's garden, so that's where it came from. And you go, that feels like I planned it, but no, it was just throwing stuff out in the early stages and then incorporating it back in.
And I would imagine that's you being someone who plays as well, right? Because that's what players do, right? They pick up on the smallest little corner thing, and it becomes a major part of the game as we're playing it.
Absolutely, yeah. There's something. I love running games for strangers, and I like running games at cons because there's something just so. It's I don't know. It's like a combination of a sport and a trust exercise.
Yes.
Where they're sort of throwing stuff at you, and you're going to catch it and throw it back at them, and both sides are improvising and building.
Yep.
And because you don't know the people at the table, you don't have the sort of the comfort of a friend who that's fine, you messed it up. We just let that ball falls, you can pick it up again. When it's strangers, you want to sort of put on a show a bit.
Yeah.
I still get absolute thrill out of running games at cons because I just got buzzing, going, that was such fun. Let's do it again.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because that's a big part of the joy that I have found running, an AP channel, because I get a lot of new players that are new. I get new players that are new to the genre, new to role playing, or just new to being at my table, and it's pure magic, and it's why, like, this is my all-time favorite hobby, because you cannot find that anywhere else, not that exact same way, and you can find pieces of it in other hobbies, right? You can go to improv comedy and get some of it. You can, but you just can't do it the way we do it here.
Yeah, I mean, there's something so satisfying of, especially when, like, you're picking up on something the players threw out. Actually, a perfect example. I was running the Terraforming Mars role-playing game at Con in Spain last weekend, and, like, the players got a rocket ship from one side of Mars to the other, and I said, like, okay, you guys, none of you have any good piloting skills, do you? Okay. And one of the players said, no, we like, none of us have piloting. We've got Mike the pilot. And Mike the pilot wasn't the scenario, but 2 hours later, there's this tense hostage situation where this bad guy is holding a gun to the head of Mike the pilot, and the players are going, we have to, like, we have to rescue him.
We care about him so much.
And they care about him because they made him up.
Yes,
and, like, they know that there was no Mike in the scenario, because I clearly went, his name is Mike. they could see me in real time making it up. Yep. They threw that ball to me. I threw back to them, back and forth. And Mike, he was never much of a character. He was just like, hi, I'm Mike the pilot, and I have, like, one personality trait of being cheerful. But they made him up. They saw that he was conjured in that moment. They attached importance to him. And it just had much more, I don't know, juice, weight than an existing character. And no other medium will do that. It's great.
So a lot of your work, Gar, is writing for other games, right? Other people's games, Terraforming Mars. That's an IP that exists. Your work with the new One Ring, which, by the way, first off, one of the best swings at Tolkien I've ever seen as a game. It's absolutely brilliant. And then the source books that you have put out are just, good Lord. You know what? It was funny, just total fanboy for a second. You talk about child, like 12-year-old, right? Like, one of the early memories I have on this hobby is I was looking for MERP, right? I knew there was a Tolkien role-playing game out there. All I had was a Walden Books, which was a book chain at the time. Yeah. And they didn't have, the only thing that they had was the Moria source book for MERP. Yeah. And I didn't know that wasn't the game, right? So I bought that, and I'll never forget, Gar, going through that going, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Just every detail I wanted. Yeah. And the same thing happened to me when I was buying the West End Star Wars books, where I was like, oh, this is just so brilliant. I got that same feeling again with your book. I was like, oh, this took me back to, like, that beautiful moment where I discovered everything about Moria that's not even covered, Yeah.
But one thing we've really lost, and I'm so upset we have, is that sort of serendipity and that feeling of this unknown world. Like, one of the first gaming books I got was the first edition AD&D Manual of the Plains. And I got it because it was a gaming book in a shop that I could buy.
Right.
I had no idea what AD&D was. I had no idea what the settings was. I remember reading through going, okay, I got basic D&D. This must be some sort of, like, special version of it. There are all these spells that, like, are kind of like the ones I know, but I don't know what they do. And it was just this, like, feeling that there was this vast world just over there. And now you can just go, Google. Yeah, I have, like, 6 PDFs of it.
It's so true. And trust me, like, I love having everything at my fingertips, right? I love that everything that we're talking about, I'm going to have linked in the show notes for people to go get, right? But you're right. There was this weird, and maybe it's nostalgia, because maybe in reality it was awful and frustrating, but there is something about, like, you had to do an investigation into stuff, and you would hear somebody mention something at a game convention, and you had to, like, seek it out and go through this process of trying to discover it. And you couldn't just, call up Bezos and tell him to send it to you.
Yeah. I mean, I expect a large chunk is nostalgia and this sort of feeling of initiation as opposed to it being handed to you. Well, yeah, actually, I want to talk about just the change in role playing later on because you of the team enthusiastic about.
No, let's talk about it now. Let's talk about it now.
Cool. No, just it is such a different world. My kids are going to secondary school, high school this year, so we did the whole tour of all the schools around the area and the open nights. And every single open night we went to, they were going we do we do debating, we do model UN, we have a D&D club.
Isn't that crazy?
It blows my mind.
Yeah.
Or I can remember when we have Pelgrane chat and every week, and I still remember the chat after that Ken and Robin had just come back from one of the early PAX Unplugged. This is just when Critical Role was getting started. And they were going there was this giant room of people, and they were all interested in someone else's campaign, and they were treating them like rock stars. And they've got Critical Role selling out Wembley Stadium or something.
Wembley, for Christ's sake, yeah.
It's insane.
Well, so that's an interesting question, Gar, because you have been here this whole time, right? What happened there? What happened? And I think we can look at Stranger Things and Critical Role as kind of the two things that I think lit this fire. Do you have a sense, what happened?
I think YouTube and being able to see other people playing is a huge thing. Because previously D&D was an oral tradition. You learn to GM at a game master's feet, or you get your own book and you fumble through it, and the first many games are quite unsatisfying or just confused. I mean, if I look back at my first attempts to GM, they I had seen other people GMing, and I'd seen theory how it was done, but my first games were terrible, and I don't want to blame some of the players, but they also have no idea what they're doing.
Sure,
it's really hard to we're going to play this game. I've played it once. You guys are going to play it now. What do you do? And players going, I don't know. A player going, shouting at me, I try and eat the well. And they're going, you can't do that. I can do anything. So I think to drag this back to sanity, I think the whole idea of being able to see people playing creates this shared culture of the shared assumption, okay, I know how this works.
Yep.
And I do fear that we're sort of drifting towards a sort of D&D monoculture where basically everyone's sort of playing the same way, and everything, we've lost that sort of sort of initiation quest, which us grognards can go, this is the proper way to do it.
I think about that too, right? Because do we find ourselves patterning ourselves after that? And the only thing that gives me hope on that aspect, because I've thought a good bit about this, is it's also a lot more diverse than it was back then, right? So I feel like I'm seeing, just by people of different perspectives and backgrounds, doing different things and making different games. That was a big part of, when I came back to role playing, Gar, it was there was just 15 dudes that made games, right? And we just bought their games. And I come back and I find things like The Quiet Year and, games that I never would have imagined. I just, not too recently, but went back and revisited Pasión de Pasiones, which is a role-playing game about Spanish telenovelas. Holy shit. And it's great, We
had Dallas 1984. We liked it.
It's really pretty incredible. So I want to transition a little bit into, again, you writing for not only other people's games, but other people's IPs. And I think we've covered a lot of what I wanted to cover there. But the one thing that I didn't get the chance to talk to you about yet is there a game in you? Right? Is there a completely original something that you have that you want to work on, that you think, or you just love working in sandboxes that are already built?
I have an odd sort of completionist. Completionist is the wrong word, because I'm not the sort of person who would fight to get to 100% and get all the chocobos and Final Fantasy or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think I would be quite happy still playing like first edition D&D because the perfect adventure for that has not been written. Like there are whole universes yet to be discovered in that one game. And that's not saying I'm saying like, those rules are perfect or anything. They're like, I'm building the rules, but like if you locked me in a room and said, Gar, like for legal reasons, you would spend the rest of your life make it dungeons for D&D. I would go, yeah, okay, fair enough. That I can do that.
Yeah.
Like so, I have done a few of my own games, but they tend to be either like, God, we need a brand new game on this particular topic. Off you go.
Yep.
They're really, like I tend not to go, okay, I want to create this game because my first thought was like, okay, what existing game out there is like it? Why can't I just do a campaign for that game or a hack of that game? So like the few games I've tried doing on my own tend to crash and burn.
Why is that?
Because I'm trying to do something entirely different. Like the one game that sort of close to being done was the thing called Drone, which was basically one player character was this cyborg, and the other three characters were sort of the voices in their heads. The guys like there was an operator, a medic, and a tactical officer, like feed them stuff, and it was this whole cyberpunk dystopia thing. And like you had to have 4 players, and it turned into a PvP thing where basically the drone was like trying to recover their past memories, and because you had like effectively one player character in the actual action, but you're still trying to have the other characters doing stuff. It was just very, very different to the traditional gag action structure of 6 people in a room. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? So I never got it working. I keep sort of going back and fiddling with it every so often. But yeah, I mean, the basic concept, basically sort of like structure of the roleplay game of a party of adventurers go and do a thing works so well.
Yeah.
I could rant for hours about how the dungeon is this like narratively perfect structure for role-playing games.
Yep.
That like I don't want to just reinvent that when I could just like write a supplement that like tweaks it.
It's 100% true, right? Like like I think you have to, if you're going to put out something new, you have to justify it, right? You have to say this is why you would do this. It doesn't mean that you don't want to play Call of Cthulhu, but Fear itself isn't Call of Cthulhu, right? No. It's different. Fear itself is not Trail of Cthulhu, and it deserves to exist because it has that differentiation. You said, the perfect dungeon has not been written for first edition D&D. Can you tell me, Gar, have you come across somebody else's work recently that really made you go, oh, this is good. Like this is not good. This is important. Have you come across something recently in our hobby that you think is significant that people will be talking about for the next 10, 15 years?
The thing that springs to mind, I'm sure I'm neglecting many wonderful things, is Chris McDowell's Mythic Bastionland.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I was vaguely aware of it. I watched the Quinn's Quest review of it.
Tell us somebody who could sell a goddamn game. Quinn's could sell a damn game.
I still haven't played it, but I remember just downloading the PDF and going through it and going, oh, this is just so wonderfully economical. I don't know if it's economical. It's like there's not a wasted word in there. It's like every inch, every square inch, every page has use margin there. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
yeah, it's a great example, I think, and we're seeing a little bit more of this now. Of just instead of saying, "Here's the plot," right? Here's the story you're going to play. I'm finding myself gravitating more towards that type of gameplay, which is giving the GM, here's all the seeds. You can grab 4 or 5 of them. You can, grab a new one that the players create. It's a different perspective of play.
It's one enjoy playing and I have a lot of trouble writing because when I'm writing, I sort of fall back into the whole convention GM thing. Where I'm going, okay, I need to I need to give the GM support. I need here are options of the GM. Here's here's what you do. Here's if the player's this, you do this. And I've been trying to sort of step back a bit from that on some projects and go, okay, I'll be a bit more trusting. There's some games will have a random table with 30 brilliant ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But each of those ideas is so game-breaking and incompatible with all the others that you roll once at the table and now there's 30 different campaigns out there. But on one level, fantastic. It's really bang ideas. It's totally great in the campaign. But also, part of me goes, hang on, there's not that's 29 useless entries for me now. I can't come back here and re-roll on this table in the same campaign. There's I feel that it's too easy to sort of throw explosives into a campaign to blow it up, which is very exciting in the moment.
Right.
And for a one shot, that's great. But you're then going to GM, good luck now. Good luck running the game where the characters have actually, it's like if you play a D&D dungeon and there's a random portal, in this room there's a mirror on the wall, and if players walk through it, they're in the elemental plane of fire. And they're going, yep, that's very wonderful and evocative, but utterly useless in this dungeon because if they go through that portal, then that's a different campaign, and the rest of this dungeon is useless to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for you, Gar, because you have written stuff like we talked about invasive procedures, which is it is a one shot. It's not a way to start a campaign, right? It's not one you're going to bring your previous players into. And then we also have things like the Dracula Dossier, which is that's 5 years worth of gaming at least, and that's if you're playing every other week, right?
Well, Dracula Dossier, is weird because I ran Dracula Dossier in 5 sessions at one.
Did you really?
Yeah. Dracula Dossier really does expand and contract to the needs because the wonderful thing with the structure of that is it ends when you fight Dracula,
right?
So you can get to the Dracula fight quite quickly if you push it. But equally, it's not just 5 years; it's 15 or 20 years. Because I've heard people running the campaign 3 or 4 times, and because of how it's structured, it's different every time.
Yeah.
But that was not just lightning in a bottle. That one is multiple flavors of lightning in multiple bottles.
Well, I was going to ask that about Dracula Dossier. Then did that just work out that way, or did you go in there saying I need this thing to be able to expand and contract? The idea was Ken Heitz, and Ken wrote this fantastic outline, and we always joke that the other person always says, each of us says the other person did more work on it because I wrote more of the text, but the original idea was Ken, and depends on which you vote as being more important. But Dracula really works because you have this really strong structure to it. But it's a modular structure where you can plug anything in on the way to the Dracula fight. Right. And you've got this familiar story, which everyone kind of knows. So everyone starts off kind of invested. And we've been casting around trying to find what other famous work can work exactly the same way, and we've yet to find that exact mix of elements. I bet. It's pretty unique, right? You can't do that. You can't do Mary Shelley's dossier, right? You can't do a Frankenstein dossier, right?
We've tried, but it just doesn't work the same way. I have the Innsmouth dossier as a con scenario.
You had what as a scenario?
The Shadow of Innsmouth, the Lovecraft story, is basically this guy comes out, and I have this con scenario where basically takes place after that. You using the Innsmouth story as a background. It's pretty the rate on Innsmouth only, but the more mystery.
But
anyway,
do you like writing for both, like the long campaigns, the one shots? Do you have a preference, or is it just
no,
what we've kind of talked about, which is whatever they give you, you fall in love with?
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
both have their particular charms.
Yeah.
Like I started off doing one shots for cons. That was my sort of proving ground. At the same time, I also ran ridiculously long campaigns back in the day. I think one thing I did with Fear itself, second edition, was really sort of like Fear the first edition was basically here's a modern day horror game. Here's how you do scenarios, blah blah. Fear the second edition, I said, okay, here's how you do one shots. Here's how you do short campaigns. Here's how you do long campaigns, because they work differently, and they all have their like. I love them all. I would play any of them, but you need to think about the needs of each of them. Like what you need in one shot is not what you need in a mini campaign.
Yep.
And it's not what you need in a indefinite ongoing campaign.
Well, it leads me to the whole next batch of questions I was going to ask you. When you look at the next edition, we've got another edition of Trail of Cthulhu coming out. We've got another, I backed all of this, right? I got another Fear itself, which I cannot wait for to come out. What drives that? Either because you participate in this or you see it happening. Is it like, it doesn't work anymore? We've got new ideas that we can't just put supplements out for. Like, we need to redo the game. I'm always interested to know, like, what's the breaking point when a creator says, I need to do a second edition. I need to do a third edition. Do you have a sense of that?
Each game promises a particular experience, and the scenario has to deliver that experience. To a degree, the underlying structure of any scenario is going to be quite similar. You're going to have a plot hook. You're going to have a series of events happen to the players. Ideally, they will have choices. Mm-hmm. You will have some way of either constraining those choices to a degree so that players end up at a particular climax, or you have some, or you have some like thing that will bring them together to that climax, or you're just going open-ended. I don't know how this is going to end, but I am confident because of how the thing is set up that there will be a satisfying end no matter what the players pick. However, how the various scenes link up, that is very heavily dependent on system.
Yeah.
Trail has the whole point of Gumshoe is that the scenes are very, the links between the scenes are very clearly signposted. You will follow these clues. These clues will take you between things. Something like or like Call of Cthulhu, where there isn't the thing guarantee you'll find the clue, although I know they've brought it in the new edition. There you either need more fallbacks or you just need to present the encounters as a sort of a stuff that's going on, and you don't try and predict the plot, the course of through the scenario quite as much. You just have a series of challenges, and you're going to let the players discover or not discover whatever they want. As I was saying earlier, the dungeon is the perfect narrative structure because the dungeon basically puts literal walls, and your choices are
it has doors
or
and
right.
Walls.
Yeah, and it's so clear. It's so clearly visual. You visualize what the choices are.
Yep.
And the choices lead you to challenges, and the game doesn't dictate how you resolve those challenges. A D&D scenario doesn't go, okay, in round one the orcs move here, and some can, some do sort of do choreograph fights a bit, but
right,
never in that much detail. That's left entirely up to the GM to play the monsters, and then the scenario clicks back in. You've got choices again, you kill the monsters. There's a chest, the chest is trapped. You can discover the trap.
Yep.
So yeah, the one universal thing is that, although universal, it has to be useful to the GM to actually to give the players experience. There'll be choices for the players, otherwise it's not a role. Do they have to be choices for the players? Yes, there have to be choices for the players. But those choices go multiple different levels. So you don't have to be the choice of yes or no. It can be how does your character react to this scene? It can be purely internal choices.
Yep.
And the other thing, there was a third thing, which I was going to say, and that third thing was insightful. Useful. A scenario or adventure has to be a good, satisfying story within the style of the game. It has to be a fun experience. And actually, part of the whole falling in love with the game is working out what the fun thing is, because one thing about roleplay, because it is 6 hobbies in a trench coat, what one player finds fun, what another player finds fun, and what one group finds fun, and what another group finds fun, and you have to work out what your audience is, and if your audience is not, and if you can't do that, they have to try and cater for multiple audiences in the same product, which is trickier and not satisfying. But yeah, but that's part of it as well. The promise you're making that this is going to be fun for everyone.
So in the last few years, Gar, I am noticing, and just because I've just now noticing it doesn't mean it's new, but I'm noticing a trend towards some investigative games not having canonical answers. And I immediately think of like Jason Cordova and what he's doing over there with Brindlewood Bay and games like that. Have you encountered that at all? And had thoughts about that approach? Because the first time I came across it, it blew my mind. I immediately threw it away as the dumbest thing I'd ever heard of. And then I actually played and ran games with it, and some magic happened. And I don't know whether you've been exposed to it or have looked into it at all.
I haven't into it. I've played a few. It is absolutely magic. But I think I find it, possibly because I just spent so much time on the GM side of the screen, that I know that I am good at connecting up things and spinning because when you're running a game, you know that you will give the players a satisfying experience by going, okay, Mike the pilot, and let me do it here because I'm bringing back stuff earlier in the interview, which is exactly the same technique where basically you're going, okay, Mike the pilot, we're going to say Mike the pilot, I'm going to spin it, spin a story that revolves around saving this thing that you guys created, and that's satisfying for you. But if you're doing that as a player, it feels a little bit cheaty, and I'm not sure if that's just, it's really hard to articulate why, because it is exactly the same technique. And I don't know why it feels fine for the GM to do it and sort of wrong for a player to do it.
Right. It's very true. The one thing I have figured out, and this is, you're seeing me in an ongoing journey here, because I haven't figured out my thoughts on it completely yet. Other than when I've done it, I've liked it, both as a player and as a GM, which I didn't expect to. But it is, one thing I have figured out is it is not for everybody, right? It is not for every GM. It's definitely not for every player. And your point, I think, is a very important one, which is because of your experience as a GM, I think it makes you better prepared to be successful in that.
I think also, I'm writing like Mary Share Detective Agency, which is this, or Detective Side, which is this gumshoe powered halfling cozy murder mystery thing. And there I'm going this style of play exists. This is not that style of play. This is very much, we're going to present a structured, formal mystery. It's like a crossword puzzle. You've got to solve the clues. You have to do proper detective stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, people are asking, are you going to do the whole Brindleshire thing? Gumshoe can do that sort of things, right? You use the Gumshoe rules to find the clues, then you do an answer. And I've played improvised Gumshoe games where the GM changes the answer on the fly in the background. which is a great thing. Yeah, I think I'm just old school. Just really like the idea that, like, you know, there is this right answer, and I want to be. I want the GM to go, that was very clever of you solving my thing. Well done.
Yeah.
Because, again, looping back to the top, you want the external validation.
Yep.
Like, if I'm giving the answer, it feels unsatisfying because I know I just made that up. I didn't solve your puzzle. It's doing a word. It's doing like a word association thing instead of a crossword puzzle. And again, that could be perfectly fine.
Right.
It's fun for one group, fun for another.
And it also gets back to something you said earlier, Gar, which is we've got to service the game, right, and the experience, right? So, you know, you can't write a Brindlewood style mystery for Call of Cthulhu because that's not the promise of Call of Cthulhu, right? In the same way that if we tried to run Brindlewood Bay saying this is the canonical answer, we're not servicing the game, right? And I think that's where it's significant. And luckily there's so many games out there, you know, for the right person in the right mood. You know, it'll fit there for sure. It's very, very interesting. So guys, we're going to take one more break. When we get back from this break, I'm going to stop talking to Gar about everything that he writes and everything he makes. I want to find out what he watches, what he reads, and what he plays. We'll be right back.
Are you enjoying our long-form interviews with creatives on this podcast? Maybe you're craving deeper discussions about our guests or some of the RPG plays on our Twitch and YouTube channel. Well, I've got an opportunity for you. You see, Third Floor Wars now has a Patreon-only Discord server. You can join a vibrant community of like-minded enthusiasts diving deep into every episode of our RPG plays and podcast. Connect with fans, engage in spirited discussions, and unlock the behind-the-scenes insights. For just $1 a month, access a world of tabletop gaming goodness. Connect with passionate gamers who share your love for the Tabletop Podcast and everything produced on the third floor. As a Patreon supporter, you also enjoy ad-free episodes of this podcast. You can immerse yourselves in captivating stories and fascinating interviews without interruptions, taking your listening experience to a whole new level. By joining the Third Floor Wars Patreon community, you not only gain exclusive access to the Patreon-only Discord server, but you also support the growth of my podcast and channels. Your contributions enable me to continue creating high-quality content that entertains, educates, and upskills tabletop enthusiasts like yourself. Maybe don't wait. Join the Third Floor Wars Patreon today and unlock a world of camaraderie, discussions, and knowledge. Visit patreon.com/Third Floor Wars or check the link in the show notes and come join our community. The Third Floor Wars Patreon-only Discord server awaits you. I and the other patrons can't wait to welcome you with open arms and a fistful of dice.
So, Gar, this tends to be the right side of the bookends for me, right? We start off figuring out kind of where you came from, what your journey was as a creative, talk about specific things and how you put things together, and where you got to where today. And what I found is that this last segment really can be informative because we're not creating on an island here, right? We are influenced by stuff that we love, and we end up making things that we love, and other people are making things that you love. So Has there been a book, a movie, a video game, an RPG, or anything recently that's gotten its hooks into you, and you have gone on that investigative journey and the rabbit hole, and you're like, I love this, and more people need to know about it?
Honestly, the thing that springs to mind is just so my old gaming group fell apart during COVID. I've been playing on and off with like every 2 weeks with friends of mine, but like that's my old gaming group from like
Right.
From secondary school. So I've been playing with those guys for like 30 plus years.
Wow.
But because we're all grown ups and I'm like well, they're
grown ups.
Well, I was going to say they have real jobs, but no, one of them is a zookeeper. But we were playing every 2 weeks with them, so I wanted to game more. So I went down to this local D&D club, which had started up like in my absence, and I expected to know A, know half the people there, and B, for there to be 20 people there.
Yeah.
And they're getting 100 people a night, and I knew none of them.
How amazing is that?
And they're going this is, and they're all young and enthusiastic, and it's just this whole other facet of the game experience. It's become such a wide hobby. So I mean, you just really enjoy going there, almost incognito, going hello, I am new gamer. What is this game you're playing?
Yeah.
And just you're trying to come at things with fresh eyes. That's been a lovely experience.
What have you learned from it?
Partly just the university game that basically it all works. Everyone, not that everyone plays the same way, but it's a very welcoming thing. That basically, I was in Spain there last weekend, Comic-Con Malaga with Shadowlands, and Spanish, either the games where I was running the games in English, the poor Spanish people were trying to cope with both my accent and playing in the language. But there, the structure was the same thing. It's just a way of communicating and experiencing things that cuts across.
It does.
I think partly because every game is a new situation. As I was saying about a culture investigation, you're always going into this unknown space and having this conversation where you're mapping out how things work, and that's everyone starts a new session or a new campaign on the same footing, which is lovely. That you can take the most experienced player ever and a complete newbie, and assuming that you're not you're running clean in the same the previous player. No, if you're in a new setting, they still have to feel their way in the same way, and also they better work out their own dynamics. It's not a game that you can master, which is the wonderful thing about it. You can get better at playing it, but you will never be done with role playing.
You'll never solve it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. I firmly believe that. And it's amazing to me, just by the nature of how I do things, I find myself introducing hobbies to people in a lot of situations. For a lot of people, I was the first time I showed them what board games can be, right? That it's not Monopoly. It's things like Terraforming Mars, the board game. Yeah. Let me blow your mind, right? I've introduced a lot of people to role-playing games, right? I've got people that say, hey, I heard you're into role-playing games, and I bring over something like For the Queen. Right. Yeah. They've never done anything like that before, but or Fiasco is another one that I'll go to for absolute newbies. Right. And what amazes me, Gar, is how easy it is for people just to get it. They just understand. And I've had a couple of people talk about this on my podcast, and I think they're right, which is this is a fundamental muscle that all of us have. We are storytellers, even if we're not telling them.
Well, role-playing games are fundamentally a conversation.
Yes.
And like the act of role playing is saying, I am going to do something. And like in a board game, whatever, to do something, you have to like understand the rules. But like you can play a role playing without any reference to the rules. You can do games where the GM handles everything. You can do games where there are no rules other than the GM say so.
Yep.
You can like do weird indie storytelling stuff where basically like there's no GM and everything is immediate to the rules, or just the agreement of the table to keep the conversation going. But there's no barrier between thought and trying to put that into action. There's no requirement. There's no. You don't need to know how things work to try and do stuff. There's no assumption of there may be an assumption of prior knowledge, but there's no assumption that. What's supposed to put it? Yeah, you know what I'm getting at.
I do.
And also in a role playing, you can say you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And people will like, yeah, exactly. And they can help you along. Jim, go, okay, you're trying to do this. It's very friendly, and and the other wonderful thing about it is that someone's lack of experience doesn't impact the fun and the completion to the rest of the game. Like I still remember running back in my college days, running a game of Vampire for complete newbies, and they never played Vampire, no idea what role-playing games were. Can I eat the prince? They're like, what? Yes, you can. You can try. An experienced player would never do that,
right?
But there's no reason you can't try, and it's going to throw this game into a really interesting space that I wouldn't have brought it to myself. Yeah.
It doesn't, because I think I always think about video games with the invisible walls, right? In video games that just doesn't exist here. And to your point, like I have several times had a table where I've had 3 very experienced role players and somebody who's first time, and the impact that they have on those other players.
Oh, absolutely.
And the excitement, and also, and this, I think this is ingrained somehow in this hobby. And there's always exceptions, but generally speaking, how welcoming, right? So I could be playing for 30 years. I've been playing role-playing games, and I get somebody who's sitting next to me at the table who's never played. Immediately, it's my job to welcome you and to usher you into this thing. And I think that's built into that conversation part.
Yeah, it's just politeness. Like because also it's just the sort of social structure of the table. Like if you're all sitting in a circle, then it's polite to include everyone.
Yes.
It's turn taking as well. Like what do you do?
Yeah. And it's cooperative, right? So it's not a competition, especially now that we have broken down the old, in most cases, it broke down the dynamic of GM versus players. That's almost pretty much gone for most modern role playing. It's truly magical. Boy, Garth, there is so many better things you could do on a Saturday night, including going down to the D&D club and finding a whole table of new players and having a ton of fun. But you spent some time with me, and I really appreciate that.
No, this has been lovely. It's been very, very philosophical, and it's energizing as well. Like to just nerd out about something that has been and continues to be a huge part of my life, and try to work out why it's been like that as well.
Oh, well, I think we covered a lot of ground, my friend. I think we got pretty deep pretty fast, which doesn't surprise me. It's something I was looking forward to. For those of you listening, guess what? This is the end. You made it the whole way, and I appreciate you doing that as well. And save some spoons, take care of yourself, and if you got a few extra, take care of somebody else. Oh, that was fantastic, my friend. Thank you.
I hope I'm not babbling overly.
No, it's like literally a phenomenal segment. You understand the podcast immediately. We're cooking with gas. This is great.
Cool.
All right, I'll bring us back. So, I gotta tell you, like, I have never had a situation like this before, Gar, where everything I wanted to cover, we covered, and it just naturally flowed from one thing to another. Like this was such a great conversation, my friend. I really appreciate this. This was awesome.
No, it's been great fun. I feel horribly incoherent, but
You're not. You're not at all.
So,
no, I think we have a very clear through line.
This is the issue with work with Robin a lot. You've interviewed Robin. Robin talks in paragraphs.
Yeah.
Like Robin, do you want a cup of tea? I think I will indeed have a cup of tea, because it has been some time since I last refreshed myself. Furthermore, having this cup of tea will give us this juncture to discourse on your latest project.
Oh my God, I believe that. It's funny. If you go look at like the audio files I have, the one with Robin, there's just very little Craig, right? There's a lot of Robin, which is amazing. All right, friend, I'll bring us back. Oh my God, dude. I had, and if you haven't figured it out, I'm a huge fanboy of your work, right? So I walk into this interview going, and this has happened where I've had somebody who I've really been excited to talk to, and I'm like, oh, God, that wasn't fun. This was an absolute fucking blast, man. This was great.
Really enjoyable. Yeah,
I'm glad. That makes me happy.
Gone on for a very long time.
Yeah, that was very, very good. Real quick question. Do you have any interest in doing a bumper for the show?
Yeah, quite happily too.
Great. So the format is, this is me when I'm not doing what I normally do. I'm listening to Tabletop Talk. And the mic is yours if you want to record one. Hey, are you still here? Look, the podcast is over. And you sat through all of the breaks and bloopers? Well, I mean, if you're here, you might as well run over to patreon.com and become a supporter. Don't forget to rate and review this podcast too while you're at it, on whatever platform you're listening to. I do appreciate you sticking around. Take care.